Hello, welcome to Africa Facts. Be sure to subscribe so as you don't miss our content as soon as we upload a new video. Today we'll be discussing about the top 5 richest countries in the African continent. Africa is the second largest continent by size by land mass, with a population being the second largest in the world, and having the youngest population in the world with the median age of 20. Despite having several backlogs in economic growth in the past years caused by factors such as tribalism, corruption and wars in the recent past decade, Africa has witnessed a tremendous growth in social, political, and economic zones. Africa is a highly diverse continent, with 4 billion people living in 54 fully recognized sovereign states. In the past decade, many African countries have achieved a high growth in terms of their economy and general improvement in the living standards of the citizens. In today's list, we'll be highlighting those countries by comparison of GDP. On the number 5, we've got Ethiopia. Ethiopia, the HQ of African Union. It is found in the Horn of Africa. The landlocked country of Ethiopia, split by the Great Rift Valley, is the 5th richest in Africa, with a GDP of 93 billion, with archaeological finds dating back over 3 million years. This ancient land is famous for being the place where the coffee bean first originated. The nation is the highest coffee and honey producer in Africa, making up a large portion of the country's foreign exchange. Other exports include legumes, oily seeds, and cut flowers. The GDP of more than $100 billion comprises agriculture, construction, manufacturing, tourism, food processing, resources, and energy. Agriculture is the region's most promising resource, making up over 40% of the GDP, 60% of exports, and more than 80% of total employment. The state is heavily engaged in the economy. Ongoing infrastructure projects include power production and distribution, roads, rails, airports, and industrial parks. Key sectors are state-owned, including telecommunications, banking and insurance, and power distribution. Under Ethiopia's constitution, the state owns all land and provides long-term leases to tenants. Ethiopia's foreign exchange earnings are led by the services sector, primarily the state-run Ethiopian Airlines, followed by exports of several commodities. While coffee remains the largest foreign exchange earner, Ethiopia is diversifying exports, and commodities such as gold, sesame, cotton, livestock, and horticulture products are becoming increasingly important. Manufacturing represented less than 8% of total exports in 2016, but manufacturing exports should increase in future years due to a growing international presence. Number 4. Algeria, the largest country on the continent found in the north. Algeria comes in at 4th place on this list of wealthiest countries in Africa, boasting a significant economy and available infrastructure, and a GDP of over $151 billion. The county achieved a notable achievement of reducing poverty by 20% within the last 20 years. Crude oil reserves are abundant in this developing Saharan country, and the economy is heavily reliant on it, so much so that hydrocarbons make up almost 70% of the income of the country. A recent discovery of more crude oil reserves have boosted this rapidly growing industrial country. Other sectors that make up the Algerian economy include agriculture, industrial works, commercial services, and construction. The country is also one of the largest suppliers of ammonia in Africa. However, it is worth noting that the recent depression and instability in oil prices has resulted in a decline in the country's currency reserves. In addition, political uncertainty and scandals in the hydrocarbon industry have caused a dip in Algeria's economic growth. Hydrocarbons have long been the backbone of the economy, accounting for roughly 30% of GDP, 60% of budget revenues, and nearly 95% of export earnings. Algeria has the 10th largest reserves of natural gas in the world, including the 3rd largest reserves of shale gas, and is the 6th largest gas exporter. It ranks 16th in proven oil reserves. Hydrocarbon exports enabled Algeria to maintain macroeconomic stability, amass large foreign currency reserves, and maintain low external debt while global oil prices were high. With lower oil prices since 2014, Algeria's foreign exchange reserves have declined by more than half, and its oil stabilization fund has decreased from about $20 billion at the end of 2013 to about $7 billion in 2017, which is the statutory minimum. On number 3, we have got South Africa. South Africa, with a GDP of $329 billion, is a middle-income emerging market with an abundant supply of natural resources, as it is the largest producer of platinum, gold, and chromium. All this goes along with a well-developed financial, legal, communications, energy, and transport sectors, and a stock exchange that is Africa's largest and among the top 20 in the world. The southernmost country in Africa is another significant player on the continent as the 3rd richest African country, with a highly developed economy. advanced infrastructure, and a GDP of over $400 billion. The country is considered one of the fastest developing countries in the world. South Africa is one of the only countries on this list that is not reliant on a single source of revenue. The country has a good mix of mining, manufacturing, financial services, and tourism. It is also abundant in natural resources and raw material. Exports the likes of gold, diamonds, platinum, coal, and iron ore. It is one of the world's largest exporters of these commodities, particularly gold and platinum. The country is world-renowned as a major tourist destination and places a lot of emphasis on tourism as a part of its economy. On number 2 we've got Nigeria. This country is located in Western Africa, bordering the Gulf of Guinea between Benin and Cameroon. With a population of over 200 million citizens, makes up an essential part of the African economy. With a GDP just over $514 billion. The sizable GDP is mainly driven by finance, transport, infrastructure, tourism, and an abundance of crude oil. The country records around 1.6 million barrels of crude oil a day, according to OPEC, making it the largest exporter of crude oil in Africa. These petroleum exports make up 10% of the total GDP and over 80% of the export sector revenue. In addition to petroleum, Nigeria has an abundance of raw materials and natural resources, contributing to the region's wealth. These include coal, limestone, zinc, lead, tin, natural gas, niobium, and iron ore. There is also sufficient fertile land for agriculture, which is responsible for over 20% of the GDP, producing cocoa and rubber. The large population have helped to propel Nigeria as the largest consumer retailer in Africa, and the digitally aware residents have contributed to the country's fast-growing tech sector. According to the World Bank, Nigeria's GDP grew 7% year-on-year between 2000 and 2014, one of the fastest rates in Africa. This has slowed to 2% in recent years due to political instability, socioeconomic factors, and oil and production shocks. The country has placed a strong emphasis on protecting its natural resources, trying to move away from its large reliance on oil refineries and processing plants. The most contributing industries for Nigeria economy include crude oil, coal, tin, columbite, rubber products, wood, hides and skins, textiles, cement, and other construction materials, food products, footwear, chemicals, fertilizer, printing, ceramics, steel. Probably you want to guess what we have on top of our list. Well, yes, you got it right. It's Egypt. Occupying the northeast corner of the African continent, Egypt is bisected by the highly fertile Nile Valley where most economic activity takes place. This ancient land in northern Africa held the spot of the richest country in Africa for many years. However, the economy suffered severely and foreign exchange reserves tumbled following the 2011 revolution during the Arab uprising. With the most recent GDP of more than $394 billion, the leading factors of the Egyptian economy include petroleum and natural gas exports, tourism, wholesale and retail trade, construction, and real estate. The state has diversified its economy away from just raw material exports in recent years, and over half of the GDP now comes from service-based employment. However, Egypt could face some socio-economic issues due to a large percent of people living below the poverty line. Unemployment, a weak healthcare system, and a global slowdown. Economic activities have improved and stabilized over the last decade to experience positive economic growth. The government recently concluded an economic reform program alongside the IMF aimed at reforming and bolstering the economy. Real GDP growth reached 5.6% in 2019, up from 5.3% in 2018. The country has also seen unemployment levels fall, an improvement in foreign exchange reserves, higher export of goods and services, and a bolstered tourism sector all contributing to its development. Thanks for watching, and please don't forget to subscribe, comment, like and share. See you in next video.